by introducing us?
Yeah.
Like now?
Yeah.
Hi. My name is Andrew McFarlane. I go by vaporstack on the internet. This is Zoë Yudistskaya, who goes by The Source. We met a long time ago in undergrad and have gone our various separate paths and make weird stuff. And I guess we're here to talk about our weird stuff.
Yeah. Thanks for coming, all people that we've been seeing all week. Thank you for coming to this thing. Yeah, so I guess we'll just show you our things a little bit. This is the last project I worked on. I guess it's as exemplary as any project that you might see from me. So this is an instrument that is also a sculpture, which was the site of a collaboration with a dancer and another musician. It was placed on a roof in Kochi in India. So it's a southern port in the south of India. Really cool port city that's like 500 years old. Or I should say the buildings are 500 years old. The city is even older than that. Yeah, and it includes a little bit of light art. That light in the middle is also an antenna. Here's Carla coming out onto the rooftop deck. And the music is also something that I worked on. So this particular track is it's a manipulation of the flight of the bumblebee. So it starts out with just like an elongated beginning of the track, and then it gets replaced by Carla actually like hitting the sculpture itself and triggering the MIDI that plays the song. So I'll just skip ahead. There's some fire. There's usually some fire in my things. And so this is kind of like theatrics, complex theatrics. It's heavily inspired by sci-fi. The dance form that Carla practices is called Kathak, and it's a storytelling kind of dance form that's practiced in India. And so she adapted movements from it to like create this new sci-fi story. Which I won't get into the story itself, but basically, you know, transforming kind of practices of the past into practices of the future is a big theme. Creating spaces. The materials are found materials, so they're just discarded wood from the shipping industry, from pallets. This whole town is, like I said, a port city, so a lot of discarded wood from ships. There's electronics, there's music, collaboration, even costuming. So that's kind of like all the different interests that I have. And then I also like making spaces with light. So that's one of the projects that we are developing for here. This is made with lasers. We cannot recreate anything like this, but we're going to try, you know, to make a softer version of it with projectors. But yeah, this is just, you know, 48 lasers aimed at a bunch of glass, a bunch of crystals, and it creates a really cool space for people to walk through. This also had sensors in it. There's a heart sensor over here. So visitors could turn on and off all the lights with their heartbeat. And there was also like a EEG headset in the space that would like play their music back. So I like wiring people up to rooms, I guess, as well. This is the project which is happening over there. So this is a current project, but also a project from the past. So we'll talk about it here. Andrew and I made this together. It's kind of like a speculative nature documentary that we shot on site in Goa, so in South India, and also around Bangalore. While we were there, we were doing a residency there just 6 months ago, I think. Yeah, so we shot it on site and then replaced or inserted fantastic kind of AI creatures into the scenes that we shot. And it's very long. I'm interested in like using novel technologies for long form video. I think that it's really interesting, like exploring the experience of like filmic experience, even if it's ambient with new technology, rather than just like making a cool clip and posting it on social media. But like, what happens if you have to sit down for 40 minutes? So that's there. We're working on the sound for it, on the narration, but you can enjoy just the visuals. Yeah, I really love this thing. It's great. So yeah, trying to integrate like generated objects while having depth of field, you know, frames changing, like realistic backgrounds that exist. Let's see. I really love the butterflies in here.
So you haven't published this one yet, right?
This was presented at a festival called Future Fantastic in Bangalore. So yes, we have. Yeah, that's really cool. And we had it, when we presented it at that festival, we had this amazing musician named Yashas Shetty, who is an electronic musician. So he was like doing the score live, but with synthesizers. So like hearkening back to that old tradition of having live soundtracks for film, but with electronic means. So that's why that's one of the reasons there's no sound. The other reason is we want to have like a nature documentary style voiceover. We're not at that stage yet. So.
What, are you doing a voiceover? Or
Yeah,
are you
yeah.
doing something weird with it?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's gonna, I mean, in some way we'll use AI also to generate the voiceover, but it's important to us to like, you know, that we are actually interested in it and that other people are interested in it, so we're not just gonna use whatever comes out, you know. We'll just use parts of it if they're fun. I was at this conference, I presented at this conference. It was called the Computer, Music, and AI, the Joint Computer, Music, and AI Conference. And I think it was 2021. And the conclusion that like we all came to in discussing all these technologies was like, it doesn't really matter what they can do. If it's not interesting to us who are watching it, then it doesn't matter. Like AIs can make art for themselves. That's cool, but we don't need to be there for that. But if we're watching, then it should mean something to us, like at the very least. So that's kind of my attitude towards it. Like we like to mix outputs and manipulate it, and we're not like just trying to be like using the technology for its own sake. I also make instruments. These are paintings that are made with conductive ink. And we play them as theremins, which was also that sculpture was a theremin / percussion instrument. so that thing on top that I'm holding is getting some kind of waves. The sound is just what the iPhone picked up, so you know, it's not, maybe not great. And it's all kind of drony stuff. And that's my bandmate Meg Shadell. And that's Imani Porter, who sits in with us every year at this festival, which happens in May, because our other bandmate is allergic to the woods. So yeah, so these are kind of some videos of the instruments that I like to make. And you can make your own. The instructions are there. So now Andrew's stuff.
Should I, I've got some drawings that are potentially NSFW. I don't know if that's going to be an issue. I don't know. I mean, they're tasteful. Can you pull up my Instagram? Right, so Steve Jobs was very opposed to having a stylus on iOS devices, but then he died and Apple was like, yay, we can finally make a pencil. And I don't know if you've used an iPad Pro, but the drawing experience on it is very, very good. It's like one of the best digital drawing implements you can get. And I got my hands on one, and I was like trying to use, you know, Procreate and all the other apps that everybody likes to use. And I was like, you know what, I hate this. I'm going to make my own. So I wrote a prototype. The prototype was done in like a couple days, but then I realized I needed to have it be very, very performant, so I had to rewrite it in C. Just gonna pull up my Instagram, which has most of my drawings on it. So these are all drawn on an iPad, and the software is written in C, so it can be cross-platform, and also so that it's not beholden to the Apple software stack, like it runs on Linux. It runs on Macs. It could run on Windows if I had more development time. But basically, it's like a minimal vector drawing program that also supports rudimentary animations, because that was just a fun feature that I decided to throw in at one point. I don't have a demo of it prepared to show you right today, but if you're around later, I can maybe pull it up. I'm using it to make loops and things. It's got, you know, some mirroring functionality. Trying to find them. Is that it? And, you know, having fun with like different things you can do by exploiting the fact that you're drawing with a graphics card and not paint. Like, what's a weird brush look like to you? There was a program that a lot of people grew up with called KidPix, which had these wacky brushes that would make funny sounds and stuff. And I'm like, we need that as adults. Why don't we have that now? I don't know where all my loops went. Oh yeah, stuff like this, I guess. I'm not really an animator. I have worked in video professionally for many years, but I'm not like an animator per se. But I know a lot of people that do, so I was like, let's make a fun animation program. So that's my drawing program for iPad. I have some formal training. I was drawing realistic stuff back before I got into Cooper Union. So like these are some examples of like what I'm trying to do. This is actually fun for me because I'm trying to figure out how to bridge the digital and physical. Now that you have this drawing program on an iPad, how do you get something physical out of it? So like this is a drawing that I made on an iPad that I then rendered as an SVG, where the circles correspond to how hard I was pushing, right? So like you wouldn't want to print this because it doesn't make any sense. It's a digital artifact that's RGB, so like transferring it to a printable medium is kind of silly, but I'm trying to experiment with different ways to like make physical manifestations of digital drawings. VBLIT is my, I think at some point, I worked in broadcast for so long and my entire life was spent waiting for renders. Like I'm in After Effects waiting for renders all day and I'm like, this is miserable. Right, I know what's fun, real-time code. So I decided to set out and create myself a very minimal vector. I don't want to call it a VJ engine because the term VJ like implies that you're using clips of video, which I'm not doing. Like the whole product is like a rejection of video. Videos are heavy, they're big, people have hard drives and hard drives and hard drives, and they don't know what's on them. Like, I'm like, I don't want any of this in my life. I'm just going to generate everything real time.
I love my hard drives.
You love your hard drives, yes. Here's an example of a performance that I did at this festival last year. So in this instance, this is like a club, but I'm just having fun. Like, we aimed the projector at the ceiling, but that's an example of the kind of like graphics that I get out of it. Yeah, we can turn the sound off.
It's really great if you like going to clubs, but you don't like interacting with people too much. Then you can like bring your game controller and like stand in the corner and control the visuals.
Yeah, I was literally standing on the dance floor with a PlayStation controller and like just staring at the ceiling, and people are like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I've created the world's weirdest video game. You can't win or lose, but it's a lot of fun to play with." So that's a hobby of mine, basically, just like seeing what kind of stuff I can build out of almost no technology. It's running on a Mac over there, if you want to see it, but like it could run on a Raspberry Pi. Like it's not married to any particular. It's not open source yet, but I was thinking about that also.
Oh, that's from the same festival my band video was from.
Yeah, it's very
So we
diverse.
like that festival, clearly. And so what we do together. So that you saw this video that's right here. Andrew doesn't like working on video, but he's really, really good at it. And I love videos, so I convinced him to work on videos with me. And
Your Mac's gonna die. I'm
the
gonna get power.
result is awesome. So that's an ongoing kind of thing that we've been working on for a couple of years now. So this video was for this, thinking on the theme of like climate change and documentaries and like AIs and the perspectives of AIs and like what kind of visuals they put out and why and how they imagine things to be. So one of the things that was written on the website was this is referencing that, in a way, conceptually referencing that image, The Rhinoceros by Dürer. It's an engraving that Dürer, who's a painter and engraver from around Renaissance time, pre-Renaissance, I think, he never saw a rhinoceros. A sailor came back, I think, from Indonesia, maybe somewhere in the South Pacific, and described a rhinoceros to him. And he drew it. And it has accuracies and it has inaccuracies. And so that idea of like secondhand information and imagining based on one's own reference points is interesting to us because that's basically what AI does. Like it can't, it doesn't see the world from its own perspective, and it doesn't like get information that's in real time. It only has information that's from the model, which is from the past, and it's limited. So if you ask it to render an animal that it's never seen before, it's going to be based on things it has seen and like weird mashups of that idea. But surprisingly, they're not that inaccurate. I mean, it doesn't know anatomy for shit. That's more of a problem than the parts that it generates. So you saw that weird gazelle in the beginning. Like the features are accurate to the description, but then like the way it puts them together is just insane. So we're really interested in that kind of concept. And before that, we were also using, I have this band project called The Seals, and it was the pandemic band project that's like fully online. And Andrew and I would make videos for them. Also like making long form video with AI techniques, but also with just traditional filming and editing. Because we couldn't go out also, because we had limited resolution. We wanted to upscale and isolate and move things around. And it was really interesting to play with these tools, but actually make like narrative-based, or at least persistence of vision-based images out of them, or not images, videos. And then we also have these AV collabs. This was also in Bangalore at a place called Walk-In Studios. The other artist here is named Alvin
Weber.
Alvin Weber. He's from Germany. And we're at a place called Walk-In Studios in Bangalore. And Alvin and I are making music. I'm using my theremins and like a bunch of random other stuff that I found around the space. And Andrew's doing the laser and video that's above. So lasers are cool. He likes vectors. I like vectors. And then this is a very old piece of footage that was, that was shot by our friend Pete Shapiro. And it's only like a minute and a half, but I just also spoken word stuff sometimes. And then Andrew's doing the visuals behind. And that's the same program that you can see and play with over there on that little screen. Okay.
Cool.
But wait, are we going to talk about what we're doing here? Okay, so yes, so we are going to, for our time here at Feed, we'll be finishing up those Who Are Living project. So on the website, if you had time to read the very quick text that appeared, it says that it's shot in the Arctic and in the Amazon, on the Amazon River, and in South India, but we only finished the South India one. So one of the things we'd like to do is just finish the editing. We won't get to the narrative, to the voice part, but at least we can have like a screening room and enjoy like these very kind of counterpointal regions, climate regions. So the north, close to the North Pole, and then like the jungle and dry grassland area with different creatures in them. And then we're working on a dance piece with Deafmark, who are here. And that's the working title. And that one, for me, in terms of the light aspect of it, it definitely relates to that piece here, but a kind of more of a projection version of it. And like making space with light. And also even that very first video that I showed you with the sculpture, kind of thinking at that scale, but instead of using heavy wood from the shipping industry, like to make something with light. Although the projectors are really heavy, as Nina and Zoe know. We spent quite an hour maybe or more, like holding and drilling them in. So light is heavy still. And for Andrew, I think, well, you can speak to your interest in that.
Just that whatever we end up doing will be real time, I think. I figured out a cool bridge for that. So we have some flexibility there.
Yeah. So we want to see what we can adapt from that program to create like that volume, that light volume, and have it like build up and go away and have different areas. And then you all could speak to your part of it if you like.
Well, this is like we are always interested in something challenging. I'm a dinosaur. To explain it, I only got my cell phone a year and a half ago because I don't want to deal with any of it, and I only use it for practical reasons. But knowing Benton for the last 2 years has made me aware there's a lot of art that I am aware of. Oh, can you hear my voice?
Oh, I thought Benton wanted it.
Oh, that I have seen things that remind me of what people are doing now, but from years ago with formations but never have I understood where this technology has gone because I am a dinosaur. But Benton is one of the people that is bringing and pushing actually the curiosity. I've always been curious. So when this came up, we said, yes, why not get together? Especially Jen said, I can't perform on the 15th. But we said, how can we get there? And one of the things is that both Andrew and Sofy are so open-minded. And as soon as I saw the lights, I had an idea. And so once we shared the idea, and everybody was on board, and definitely I am not out to influence them, I'm out for them to influence what I do, so I'm pushed and shoved, and hopefully it goes the other way, but it doesn't have to. So we are excited. We're going to show it on Friday, right? It's on Friday, there's gonna be a presentation.
Yeah.
And there's also poetry, because everything that we do in dance always has an intent, if it's emotional, social, racial, political, it is how I breathe. To me, what is happening around me and what is happening underneath me with Mother Earth is what moves me and what disturbs me and what aches my heart. So that is partly, and there is also the beauty part of it is the harmony. So I'm hoping that what I've learned today is what I have to say is how incredible you both are. It's a revelation because I'm not, I am, so we are excited.
Yeah, so come at 8:30 on Friday. You're all invited. It's an invite-only event, so you are all invited. And we'll have a presentation of our exploration and development of this project. Yeah. We're super stoked.
Very.
Yeah.
Benson has to be happy. Because he's influenced me.
Yes.
Future happy.
And should we finally finish with the windows, or?
Yeah, we can talk about that very briefly.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we'll finally, really briefly, we have to do something on the windows. And my slide is cut short, but yeah, we just like, this is our extra, we just have to, I'm sure everybody that comes here, Benson, is like, oh, especially if you're into projection. It's just such a beautiful canvas. So that's Andrew's font that he made in very, very low resolution fonts. So we're gonna try to put that on the bricks. And I just really like noise and glitch. So I'm gonna glitch up. We
can combine them.
I think. But Andrew had a, do you want to talk about the message?
Yeah. I saw the building, walking here from the train station. That's like 3 in the morning or something, because our train was super late. And I saw the windows, and I was immediately like, I want to put text in those windows. And then I was like, but what kind of text, Andrew? And I was thinking to myself, I've long been a fan of Jenny Holzer, as I'm sure all of you know. Like, she does this amazing, like, bold, almost like, it's like antagonistic sometimes, like these giant, like often giant, sometimes tiny, like typography. And I was like, I love her work, but it's like, it's a little bit authoritarian in a way. Like, even though it's like anti-authoritarian messaging, it's also like all caps telling you what to do. My favorite, I think, is abuse of power comes as no surprise. And I was thinking about these windows, and I was like, what if I put like really nice, like cute messages in the windows?
Yeah.
Like really quiet questions, like, what's your favorite smell?
And this is like a big part of my artistic philosophy. I think that, when we use sarcasm to like point to injustice in the world, or like suffering or horror, or like irony, or all these things, or satire, if we don't like make it extremely clear that that's what that is, we're just perpetuating the bad message. We're perpetuating the oppressive language, we're perpetuating the conception of like a dystopian future and all that. And I think that we, especially like as a society together, we've come to start to agree about that when it comes to movies, at least, and sci-fi and things like that. But I think there's a lot of other areas where it's just like, there's so much suffering. Like, if we want to like point to it, like, why don't we send a good message that speaks to the suffering rather than like a message that maybe, if you don't understand that it's an irony or criticism, it just means the same thing. Like, it just perpetuates it.
Satire,
to me,
satire is dangerous.
Yeah,
because
to
it can
me,
be
abuse of
misunderstood.
power comes as no surprise. Just means that abuse of power comes as no surprise. You know, it doesn't. I'm like, yes, I know that. I'm from the Soviet Union. Like, I know that. So yeah, so we were thinking about just like, in making work, you know, to just live the positivity, like live the world you want to see, and all that. So yeah, that'll be really fun. Stretch goal. All right.
Yep.
We're done?
I think that does it.
That's our presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Yeah.
You taking any questions?
Yeah, we're taking questions if anybody has to.
So you're a composer. Most of the works could have your music in the back. Do you or don't you go that direction?
I do mostly go in that direction, especially by the time I post it on the internet. If it's documentation, I'll do that because I don't want to use other people's work. But you know, time is always an issue. So it's like when I compose, I focus on that. When I sculpt, I focus on that. If I'm designing the light, I focus on that. So it's kind of like, it has to be a balance. Or if there's lots of time, like this project, you know, this is probably going to take us a year, and it's happening in stages, then we can do every piece of it. But yeah.
So I have the first question that I had in mind. I'm coming from the world of dance. It's pretty difficult to monetize what one does in dance unless you teach. And when we're no longer involved with teaching most of the time, that has become a different world. How do you monetize what you do? How do you live?
Two or three ways. I mean, since the pandemic, I've mostly been in academia. Because before that, I was doing event production, which is an absolutely fantastic way to pay the rent. It's really fun. You take all the tools of doing this kind of work and just set it up for someone else. And I would VJ. And VJing is also, honestly, it's pretty good. If you get a good event, you can do it like 3 times a month and be done for the month. So. And it's so much fun. So I really like doing that. But VJing is really hard, and event production is really hard in that, you know, you're coming home at 4 in the morning, and even if you have a crew, at some point you're like climbing on the ladder or lifting stuff late at night, and I'm like, man, someday I'm going to be 50, and I better learn another skill. So I got into a PhD program, and then the pandemic hit, and I closed down my production shop, which was a very small studio, you know, just doing kind of niche events. Like, I call them guild events, because I do a lot of events for, like, I did AIGA stuff, so that's the graphic designers kind of union, you could say. IIDA stuff, which is the interior designers union, you could say. You know, so it's like these kind of events where like industry talks to industry rather than talking to, you know, rather than like a convention or something like that. Yeah, I can't do commercial events. I just can't. It makes me sick. So, but I could do that. I can do, you know, art events, things like that. And that was really great. But we'll see what happens after the PhD is over. But yeah, the pandemic was really had a big hand in ending that part. So I still VJ a little bit. Also Halloween. Halloween in New York City is like the most important holiday. It lasts for a month. 1/5 of my income would be Halloween for the year. So that's also a big thing. Yeah, Andrew works commercially, however, so.
Yes, I do
Yeah.
motion graphics. I was a compositor for 3 years doing stop motion compositing. I work in broadcast design. I worked at Vice for 4 years, working on their daily news show. That was a lot of fun. Although the side effects of that are that I spent the 4 years that basically coincided with the Trump presidency in a newsroom hearing about all of the news every day. So I'm like kind of over the news at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I work for Apple sometimes. They're a pretty good client. They pay on time. Actually, that's the one good thing of the pandemic is that like they will now let you work remote. Like everyone suddenly became cool with remote work. So like I used to have to go and live in Sunnyvale for that gig, and now I don't have to anymore, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and
my favorite.
freelancing obviously gives him the time he needs in between jobs to make art. And yeah, I guess I'm on a grant for 5 years, so I can just chill out for now. Yeah.
I have a technical question. With the instrument built-in, are you using like a capacitive resistor?
Yeah, no. I'm using just charcoal paint, and that is a capacitive resistor. So yes and no. If you have a big field of charcoal, like this much of it, it's a capacitive
Right, and then you
resistor.
just attach that to a microcontroller or
Yeah.
to your system's code?
Yeah, just to an Arduino. It's really, really simple code. It's like example code, and there's 2 resistors. That's it. It's like the most basic. It's the bare minimum. That's why they're called bare mins.
And then the window project with the different texts, would that change, or would it be, like when did you fall in love? Would that always change? Or?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I assumed it would change. Never asked.
I sat down and wrote like 30 different ones. I'm probably gonna cut some and write some more. But yeah, I'd like to actually like animate them.
And I really like noise. I will show you some noise.
Noise, you say?
I love noise so much. So I would love to just like eat them and then like have them come back out again or something like that, process them in some way. All right then.
All right.
Cool.
Thanks for
For coming.